हेलो गाइस, दिस इज़ डॉक्टर सजाद वानी। आज का हमारा जो वीडियो है इसमें हम फंडामेंटल राइट्स का एक ब्रीफ आइडिया देंगे। व्हाट आर फंडामेंटल राइट्स? फंडामेंटल राइट्स, दे आर called fundamental rights because they are guaranteed and protected by the constitution itself, and you all know that the constitution is the fundamental law of the land. इसके अलावा इनको फंडामेंटल राइट्स क्यों बोलते हैं? बिकॉज दे आर वेरी एसेंशियल फॉर द ऑल राउंड डेवलपमेंट ऑफ an individual. That's why they are called as fundamental rights. So, fundamental rights are called as fundamental rights. They are fundamental because of two reasons. Number one, they are guaranteed and protected by the constitution itself, which is the fundamental law of the land. Number two, they are very essential. I can say that they are most essential for the all round development of an individual. That means they are fundamental in the all round development of an individual. That's why they are called as fundamental rights. The fundamental rights, they are enshrined in part 3 of the Constitution of India from articles 12 to article 35. How many parts does our constitution have? Our Constitution of India has 25 parts at present, numbering from part 1 to part 22. Part 7 that has been deleted, part 4a, part 9, 9a, 9b, part 14a, they have been added. So at present there are 25 parts in the Constitution of India, and part 3rd, it deals with fundamental rights. It contains various articles from article 12 to article 35. So the fundamental rights, they have been borrowed. The idea of fundamental rights, it has been borrowed from the Constitution of America, from the Constitution of USA. The Constitution of USA, it contains a detailed Bill of Rights. The Indian Constitution framers, they got the inspiration or the idea of fundamental rights from the Bill of Rights contained in the Constitution of USA. So the idea of fundamental rights, it has been derived from the Constitution of USA. And what does the Bill of Rights mean? Bill of Rights means the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of USA, and these amendments were proposed or made by James Madison. So फिलहाल आप इतना याद रखेंगे, part 3 of the Constitution of India from article 12 to article 35 contains the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights का काम क्या है? The fundamental rights, they are meant to promote the ideal of political democracy. Fundamental rights are meant for promoting the ideal of political democracy. इसका मतलब क्या है? That they prevent the establishment of an authoritarian or despotic rule in the country, and they protect the liberties and freedoms of the people. They protect the liberties and freedoms of the people against the invasion of the state. So the fundamental rights, they are meant to promote the ideal of political democracy. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में पार्ट 4 है, उसमें डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी हैं. उनका काम क्या है? दे प्रमोट द आइडियल ऑफ social and economic democracy, while as fundamental rights in part 3 of the Constitution promote the ideal of political democracy. The fundamental rights, they operate as a limitation on the tyranny of the executive and the arbitrary laws of the legislature. In short, the fundamental rights, they aim at establishing a government of laws and not of men. ये याद रखना है. So आगे चलते हैं. Originally the Constitution of India, it contained a list of 7 fundamental rights, and at present it contains only 6 fundamental rights. Right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies. These are the 6 fundamental rights present in the Constitution of India at present. Right to equality from Article 14 to Article 18. These are 5 articles. Right to freedom from Article 19 to Article 22. These are 4 articles. Right against exploitation from Article 23-24. Right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, 4 articles. Cultural and educational rights, 29 and 30, 2 articles. Right to constitutional remedy, a single article, Article 32. सो आप फंडामेंटल राइट्स को कैसे याद रखेंगे? हम एक एब्रीविएशन बना सकते हैं टू रिमेंबर द फंडामेंटल राइट्स इन देयर सीरियल. इक्वालिटी से हम ई लेंगे, फ्रीडम से एफ, एक्सप्लॉयटेशन से ई, रिलीजन से आर, एजुकेशनल राइट्स से ई एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रेमेडीज से सी. ई एफ ई आर ई सी, इसको हम एफेरिक पढ़ सकते हैं. ई एफ ई आर ई सी, एफेरिक, ई एफ ई आर ई सी. Equality, freedom, exploitation, religion, educational, constitutional. So these are the 6 fundamental rights. They are enshrined in part 3 of the constitution from article 12 to article 35. So right equality start होता है article 14 से. कितने articles में? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 5 articles में. आप ऐसे याद रख सकते हो 5, 4, 2, 4, 2, 5, 4, 2, 4, 2 और लास्ट में ये अलग से 32 मीन्स एक आर्टिकल है. राइट इक्वालिटी 5 आर्टिकल्स, राइट टू फ्रीडम 4 आर्टिकल्स, राइट अगेंस्ट एक्सप्लॉयटेशन 2 आर्टिकल्स, राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ रिलीजन 4 आर्टिकल्स, कल्चरल एंड एजुकेशनल राइट्स 2 आर्टिकल्स एंड राइट टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रेमेडी. मीन्स 5, 4, 2, 4, 2, 5, 4, 2, 4, 2. So these are our fundamental rights currently present in the Constitution of India. There was the seventh fundamental right, which was known as right to property under Article 31, and this article it was deleted by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. यहाँ पे ये Amendment Act याद रखना है. So 44th Amendment Act of 1978 it changed various provisions of the Constitution of India. One among them was it deleted Article 31 from the fundamental rights. So now right to property is no more a fundamental right. यहाँ पे ये amendment होता क्या है? Amendment means any change in the constitution, whether it is some sort of addition, deletion or any modification. हमारे constitution में change कौन ला सकता है? It is not the prime minister, it is not the president, it is not the Supreme Court. It is the function of only parliament. Means only parliament can make amendments in the constitution. The 44th Amendment Act of 1978 it modified the constitution, various provisions of the constitution. One of the modification was that it deleted right to property under Article 31. And this right to property it was made a legal right. Legal right it is different from fundamental right. It will be discussed separately when we deal with fundamental rights in detail. It was made a legal right under Article 300A in Part 12 of the Constitution. Part 12 का title क्या है? Finance, Property, Contracts and Suits. Means right to property was a fundamental right. It was deleted by 44th Amendment Act of 1978 and it was added in the list of legal rights under Article 300A in Part 12 of the Constitution of India. आगे चलेंगे. Fundamental rights. Some of the fundamental rights they are available only to citizens and other fundamental rights they are available to all persons. तो फर्क क्या है? Citizens means all those people जिन पे Part 2 of the Constitution of India apply होता है. Part 2 of the Constitution of India में हम detailed provisions पढ़ेंगे about citizens. India में we have a single citizenship and the fundamental rights they are available not only to citizens but some of the fundamental rights they are also available to all the persons. All the persons means whether it is a citizen, a foreigner or a legal person. Legal person में हमारा corporations आता है, companies etc. So fundamental rights ये सिर्फ citizens पे apply नहीं होते, कुछ इनमें सिर्फ सिटीजन्स पे अप्लाई होते हैं और कुछ इन फंडामेंटल राइट्स में सारे पर्सन्स पे अप्लाई होते हैं। आगे चलेंगे। द फंडामेंटल राइट्स दे आर नॉट एब्सोल्यूट। व्हाट डज दिस मीन एब्सोल्यूट? द फंडामेंटल राइट दे आर नॉट एब्सोल्यूट बट क्वालिफाइड। एब्सोल्यूट का मतलब क्या है? एब्सोल्यूट का मतलब ये है दैट द स्टेट कैन इम्पोज रीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस। दे आर नॉट एब्सोल्यूट। एब्सोल्यूट का मतलब एब्सोल्यूट मीन्स unrestricted. Fundamental rights are not absolute, they are qualified. Qualified means that the state can impose reasonable restrictions. For example, you have the right or freedom of speech. You have freedom of speech. It doesn't mean that you can speak anything against anybody at any place. ये हम डिटेल में अंडर आर्टिकल 19 पढ़ेंगे। So fundamental rights, they are not absolute but qualified. That means they are subject to reasonable restrictions. आगे चलेंगे। The fundamental rights, they are justiciable. What does justiciable mean? Justiciable means that in case of violation of a fundamental right, you can approach court. Means the fundamental rights, they are justiciable as they allow persons to move to courts for their enforcement if and when they are violated. ये भी एक डिफरेंस है between fundamental rights and directive principles. Directive principles and fundamental duties, they are non-justiciable, while fundamental rights, they are justiciable. आगे चलेंगे। Fundamental rights, they are defended and guaranteed by the Supreme Court of India. Means the aggrieved person can directly go to the Supreme Court. He can go to Supreme Court directly and not necessarily by means of an appeal. Means in case of violation of a fundamental right, an aggrieved person, he can directly go to Supreme Court. Means the Supreme Court has an original jurisdiction in this. और यहाँ पे ये याद रखना है that the Supreme Court of India is the guarantor of the fundamental rights. यहीं पे याद रखिए, the Supreme Court of India is the guarantor of fundamental rights because an aggrieved person, he can directly go to Supreme Court, not necessarily by way of appeal against any judgment of a high court. हम आगे चलेंगे। The fundamental rights, they are not sacrosanct or permanent. What does this mean? फंडामेंटल राइट्स जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हैं ये परमानेंट नहीं है। मैंने अभी आपको बोला दैट पार्लियामेंट इट कैन अमेंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। व्हेन द पार्लियामेंट कैन अमेंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इट कैन ऐड और डिलीट अ फंडामेंटल राइट। दैट्स व्हाई द फंडामेंटल राइट्स दे आर नॉट परमानेंट। द पार्लियामेंट कैन curtail और repeal fundamental rights by a constitutional amendment act. So the fundamental rights, they are not permanent, they are not sacrosanct. जैसे पहले राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी इट वाज अ फंडामेंटल राइट, तो नाउ इट हैज बीन डिलीटेड, मीन्स it was not permanent. That's why we say that fundamental rights are not sacrosanct or permanent. आगे चलेंगे। The fundamental rights, they can be suspended during the operation of national emergency. National emergency हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे under article 352. The national emergency, it can be imposed on the grounds of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. The national emergency imposed on the grounds of war and external aggression is called as external emergency, while the national emergency imposed on the grounds of armed rebellion is called as internal emergency. So, the fundamental rights, they can even be suspended in case of a national emergency. But there are two exceptions, means two articles वो suspend नहीं होते.